was born, I was left to die. The experience of that showed me what death looked like. So I recognized from that point on when I came close to death, only because I'd been close to death before. And then several more times I came close to death, and that final time when I talk about well, not necessarily the final time, but when I talk about that transformational experience of 1979, when Ricky Rudy called me, she said, "Are you okay? Is everything fine?" I said, "No. And I will be." Because I could see that the death was coming toward me again. So it wasn't like I had cancer and was on my deathbed. You don't have to have cancer and be on your deathbed to die. But I could see that death was approaching me. That's a difficult one, because most doctors would say, "Well, how could you have been dead if you weren't sick, if there were no..."
Well, you and I have talked about death and in transformation, and that my transformation, when I first saw the completeness of it, where the feelings dropped away, that I didn't see, it wasn't perhaps as harsh as some of the other descriptions that I'd heard, people give of their experience of it.
In other words, you didn't feel like you died. So my question is, if Donna says to you or Marilyn says to you, "Are you transformed? Have you transformed your life?" What would you say?
Yes.
You would say yes.
Yes.
And who is the expert for you in terms of your transformation?
Me.
You are.
Yes.
So then, when you say you're transformed, then what does it mean?
I am transformed.
Exactly.
In the way that I transform.
Exactly. In whatever way you say it is. Now, is it possible that you're not transformed?
I suppose
Just answer the question.
Yes.
It's a hugely important yes, it's an important question, because the absolute saying of "yes, I'm transformed" is the indicator that you've just shifted, that there's just a little movement. It's only when you hold the possibility open that there is not that action of transformation.
and the possibility lives in the watching of myself.
Yeah, because if someone says to you, "Are you transformed?" and you say, "Yes, I transformed my life," and then they say, "Are you positive you're transformed?" In a certain sense, that's a test to see if you actually have transformed, because if you have, then you always hold the possibility that you have not. That's where your true life is. So 99% of you then would be transformed,
Yes.
and 1% of you would be the
Yes.
doubt about that. And in that 1% lives the whole world.
Yes.
Listen to this, because it's important. That means to say, in that 1%, it used to be that 90%, 99% of you was feeling, was a hatred, was the way you interacted with the world, right?
Yes.
You would get angry, you get upset. As a matter of fact, now you say, "How in the hell did I ever live that way?" Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So now, and this is important for you, right now then, 1% of you is the anger, the hatred, the upsettedness, the child molester, the killer, the murderer. So still 1% of you is that way, but what's the other 99%? The other 99%.
It's clear.
So you have switched places with yourself. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
What used to be huge is now tiny, and what used to be tiny is now huge. The thing is what was tiny, which is reality, is now huge, which is reality. And the illusion is now tiny. But is it gone?
No.
It's not gone.
As it's only 1%. If we're talking about percentages,
I mean, that's not true. None of this
Right.
stuff that I'm saying
It's
is
the
true.
speck,
It's the piece, yes.
that piece is now seeable. Before, the piece was, because the entire world was, for me, my reality was the entire world was anger and...
Yeah, so you couldn't see that.
So I couldn't
speck.
see it. It just seemed like that's the way things were. Having a little piece, now when the little piece comes up to show itself, it's seen clearly as...
Then you can see it.
Yes.
Now there is the place where you take the 1% and what do you start doing with it?
shrinking.
Shrink, 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 shrink.
Yes.
And that's the place where you can shrink it. And what shrinks it?
Seeing it.
What shrinks it after seeing it?
What shrinks it after...
What do you do after you see it? When you see your greed, what do?
Speak it out.
Speak it out. The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free, but it doesn't die then, does it?
No.
it continues the action of setting you free. So being set free is a constant action. It's not, oh, I'm free. Now I don't have to do anything anymore.
Although there is some, they're not.
There is that.
Yes.
But that's not it. Because if that were it, then transformation wouldn't be worth diddly squat, would it? Because you'd say, I'm transformed now. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I've got it. And then you die. You see?
Yes.
So the action of transforming, of truth setting you free, is a continuous action. But it takes an alive, aware mind to say, there's my greed. There's my whatever it is. There's that, there's that. And that's taking, as I said before, that's taking that 1% and shrinking it down smaller and smaller and smaller.
Now, a person who hasn't had a transformational experience, speaking about this stuff doesn't engage them in the transformation itself. But I discovered that the transformation sort of snuck up on me.
Sure.
That I started sort of I did it the way that I did it, but for me, the act of speaking truth started sort of as a game to see if I could do it. I mean, in the thinking about it, it started as a game because I was selling snowblowers, and it seemed at the time that selling a snowblower that you had to lie in order to,
Like a used car.
like selling a used car, yes.
Yeah.
So when somebody asks you how
That
old
car
it
will
was,
run forever.
you tell them it's 5, 7 years old. If it looked like it was in good shape, it's 5 years old. If it looked a
And you
little
know
less in good shape, it was 10 years
Manufactured
old.
in 1940 or something.
Right, and some of those Snowmaster snowblowers are 1974. Now, and interestingly enough, and this is to say to someone who is going to start the experiment of speaking truth, that the dangers that they see in speaking truth probably are more that they see them than they actually are. Because as I've spoken truth about selling snowblowers, when somebody asks me how old the snowblower is and I tell them it's pretty old, they still buy it. The same as if I told them it was 5 to 7 years old.
They know it anyway by looking at it.
Not usually.
Yeah, they know. They know.
I was actually shocked to hear 1974 on some of these snowblowers.
Well, yeah, they might not know the year, but
Yeah.
they know it's an old one.
Right.
So the idea or the interest that I have is not so much you're interesting in the terms of what caused this experience of what you call transformation. It may only be a paradigm shift. You may have only shifted in the same consciousness, had a huge shift, which means that if that's the case, then at some point you could shift back, and all of a sudden you could be pissed off at Donna again, or you see, or it could be a transformation from which there is no return. It's like you're going to hell and that's it, or you're going to heaven and that's it. There isn't any untransformation.
Well,
But what I was saying about that is, so what you have to say about it is important, but what people who have not experienced something like that hears when we talk about it is important.
I don't know what to hear.
The reason it's important is because some part of what you did caused you to have whatever this is that you call transformation. Now, would you have had that without the conversation?
Would I have had
That experience of what you call transformation?
without the conversations with you?
Or, well, without the conversation, with me or without me or whatever. Probably not without me, because this is the only place you've ever encountered it.
Probably not. In fact,
Probably not is the truth.
it needed to be introduced to it in order for.
And then there's a catalyst or a spark, and there's all of that. It would be interesting if you knew which part of the conversation was for you.
Catch
But
it,
but it's always individual to the person. You see?
Yes.
So the action of transforming, of truth setting you free, is a continuous action.